Get away from here. You have no right to step foot in this room, Officer Dale Whitmore said, shoving Maya back without hesitation. Maya stumbled back but managed to stay on her feet. The hallway suddenly went dead silent. Whitmore stood smugly in front of the chief's office door, as if he had just proven his power, looking at the shiny badge on his chest. His so-called authority was nothing but a joke. Didn't you hear me? He snapped. This is a restricted area. Maya steadied herself. She did not touch the place where his hand had struck her shoulder. She did not give him the satisfaction of seeing pain. I'm here for an appointment, she said. With who? Whitmore sneered. Animal control? The officers nearby all looked away, and not a single soul dared to step forward. Maya quickly took in the situation, glancing at the broken camera in the hallway before locking eyes with a young officer nearby, who looked like he wanted to speak up but was too afraid to do so. Whitmore stepped closer. You people always come in here thinking a calm voice makes you important. Maya looked at him. Respect is not something people should have to beg from a badge. His smile disappeared. You came here to lecture me? No, Maya said. I came here because I was asked to. That answer irritated him more than anger would have. He reached for the folder in her hand. What's this? Maya kept her grip steady. Paperwork. For what? For the person I came to see. Whitmore pulled harder. Maya let the folder go, not because she was afraid, but because she wanted to see what kind of man he became when he thought he had control. His eyes paused on the top page. His jaw tightened. Then he snapped the folder shut before anyone else could see. What kind of game are you playing? He muttered. Maya reached out. My folder. Whitmore did not hand it back. Behind them, a low growl rose from the records corridor. An old German shepherd stood beside a locked storage door, gray around the muzzle, one ear bent from age. His collar read Ranger. He stared at the door as if something behind it had been waiting too long to be found. The young officer, Brooks, stepped forward. Ranger, he said softly. Easy. The dog growled again. Whitmore turned sharply. Get that old mutt out of here. Maya looked from the dog to the locked room. What's in there? Whitmore shoved the folder back against Maya's chest. You need to leave, he said. Now. Maya took the folder and held it at her side. Are you ordering me out of a public building? I'm ordering you out of my hallway. Maya's eyes moved to the office door behind him. Your hallway? Whitmore leaned in. That's right. The front entrance opened. Cold November air swept into the building, carrying the smell of rain and wet leaves. A man in a navy suit stepped inside, carrying a sealed envelope. He stopped when he saw Maya standing several feet from the office door, Whitmore blocking her path. His face hardened. Maya, he said quietly. Whitmore glanced at him. And who are you supposed to be? The man ignored him and looked at Maya. Is there a problem? Maya kept her eyes on Whitmore. Not anymore. Whitmore laughed once, but it sounded uncertain now. The man in the navy suit stepped closer. Officer, I suggest you return the lady's path to that door. Whitmore's grip tightened around his belt. I don't take suggestions from suits. No, Maya said calmly. But you may want to start. Whitmore stared at her, and for the first time that morning, something close to doubt crossed his face. Maya walked forward. He did not move, so she stopped inches from him and spoke softly. Step aside. The hallway held its breath. Whitmore looked at the man in the suit, then at the folder in Maya's hand, then at the locked records door where Ranger still growled. Something was beginning to happen in that building. Something Dale Whitmore could feel but could not yet understand. He stepped aside just enough for her to pass. Maya placed her hand on the frosted glass door, the same door he had shoved her away from moments earlier. Then she looked back at him. Stay close, Officer Whitmore, she said. We are not finished. And before he could answer, Maya William opened the door and walked in. Maya William stepped into the chief's office and closed the door behind her. She did not sit down. For a few seconds, she stood with one hand still resting on the doorknob, listening to the muffled sounds in the hallway. Dale Whitmore was not shouting now. That told her something. Men like him became loud when they believed they had power. They became quiet when they sensed that power moving out of their hands. The office had not been prepared for her. That was obvious. A framed photo of the former chief still sat on the desk. A half-empty mug had been left beside the phone. A stack of unsigned reports leaned against a computer monitor. Someone had expected her to be delayed, embarrassed, maybe sent away entirely. Maya placed her folder on the desk but kept her hand on top of it. David Monroe entered a moment later. He shut the door carefully. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "No." "He put his hands on you." "I know. We can document that immediately." "We will," Maya said. "But not first." David studied her face. He had worked with her long enough to know when she was holding back anger, and he knew better than to tell her to calm down. Maya was already calm. That was the part that usually worried people. "Whitmore saw part of the document," he said. "Enough to scare him. Not enough to understand." David nodded toward the hallway. "The mayor's in the conference room. Deputy Chief Hale still hasn't appeared." Maya looked at the closed door. "Of course he hasn't. You think he planned that?" "I think he knew exactly what kind of man he left standing outside this office." David waited for her next instruction. Maya opened the folder and removed only one page, the schedule for the morning. She did not take out the appointment order. Not yet. There were too many eyes in the building, too many people who needed to reveal themselves before she revealed everything. "Give me 5 minutes," she said. David hesitated. "Maya." She looked at him. He lowered his voice. "You don't have to carry this like it's personal and pretend it isn't." For the first time since entering the building, her expression changed. "Just a little. I know what I'm carrying," she said. David did not press further. He had read her father's file. Not the official file, because the official file had been sanitized before Maya was old enough to understand what that meant. He had read the copies Judge Evelyn Carter kept in a locked cabinet for 16 years. "I'll be outside the door," he said. When he left, Maya remained standing. 5 minutes. That was what she had asked for, but the past did not need 5 minutes. It needed only one breath. She was 12 years old again. Her father, Samuel William, had been driving home from a Friday night basketball game at the high school where he taught history. Maya had begged to go with him that night because he always bought her a slice of pecan pie from a diner near the gym if his team won. They had won. She remembered the pie box on her lap. She remembered her father humming along to an old Al Green song. She remembered the blue lights flashing behind them. Samuel pulled over immediately. He placed both hands on the steering wheel before the officer reached the window. He told Maya to stay still, keep quiet, and not be afraid. But children know when adults are afraid. The officer said Samuel had failed to signal. Samuel had signaled. Maya had seen it. She almost said so, but her father gave her a small look that told her silence was safer than truth in that moment. Another patrol car arrived. Then another. Her father was ordered out of the car. He asked why. He was told not to get smart. He was searched. His wallet was thrown on the hood. His lesson plans were pulled from his briefcase and scattered across the roadside. Maya pressed her hand against the window and watched her father become smaller without shrinking. He did everything right. He spoke politely. He did not resist. He asked for badge numbers. That was when one of the officers twisted his arm behind his back and called him boy. Maya had never forgotten the sound her father made. It was not a scream. It was something worse. A short, broken sound from a man trying not to frighten his daughter while pain traveled up his shoulder. They found nothing in the car. No drugs, no weapon, no open bottle, no reason. But the next morning, the story around town was that Samuel William had been difficult during a stop. By Monday, the school board had received an anonymous complaint. By Wednesday, parents were calling the principal. By the end of the month, Samuel had been suspended pending review. He was eventually cleared. That was what people said when they wanted to make it sound like justice had worked. But cleared did not give him back the way neighbors used to wave. Cleared did not return the students whose parents moved them out of his class. Cleared did not erase the whisper that followed him in the grocery store. Cleared did not put him back together. Maya watched him change over the years. He still ironed his shirts. He still paid every bill on time. He still kissed her forehead before leaving the house. But the lightness in him was gone. He stopped singing in the car. He stopped attending school games after he retired early. He stopped correcting people when they misunderstood him, as if he had learned that truth was too expensive to keep proving. When Maya graduated from college, he smiled for every photograph. When she received her law school acceptance, he held the letter for almost a full minute without speaking. Then he said, "Don't spend your whole life fighting ghosts, baby." Maya had answered, "I'm not fighting ghosts," but she knew she was lying. Samuel William died when Maya was 24. His heart failed in the middle of a quiet Sunday morning. The doctor used words like genetics, stress, age, and prior condition. Maya heard only one word: delayed. Everything that could have saved him had arrived late. The apology, the investigation, the sealed settlement, the admission that policies had been violated, the letter from a county official who wrote that the department regretted any distress caused. Any distress. That phrase had nearly made Maya tear the paper in half. At the funeral, Judge Evelyn Carter stood beside her near the church basement, while women from the congregation packed leftovers into foil trays. Judge Carter had been retired by then, but still carried herself like someone who expected lies to sit up straight in her presence. "He was proud of you," Judge Carter said. Maya did not answer. "He was also afraid for you." That made Maya look at her. Judge Carter handed her a small black case. Inside was Samuel's fountain pen. "He used that pen to write letters," the judge said. "Complaints, appeals, statements. Most of them went unanswered." Maya closed her fingers around it. "I don't want to write unanswered letters." "Then don't," Judge Carter said. "Write orders. Write findings. Write decisions they cannot bury." Years later, when the Department of Justice asked Maya to join the Civil Rights Division, she said yes before the offer letter was finished. She built her career on discipline. She learned how to read a police report and see what had been left out. She learned how officers protected each other with passive verbs and missing timestamps. She learned that corruption rarely introduced itself as evil. It called itself policy, tradition, discretion, command culture. Fairmont was not the first broken department she had studied, but it was the first one she had been asked to lead, and she had refused. Twice. The first refusal happened in Washington, in a glass conference room, where senior officials presented 6 months of findings. Fairmont showed a pattern of unlawful stops, missing body camera footage, intimidation of complainants, and internal retaliation. Maya listened to every word. Then she said no. "You need someone older," she told them. "Someone they can't dismiss before she opens her mouth." Her supervisor answered, "They will dismiss anyone who threatens them." The second refusal happened 3 nights later, over the phone with Judge Carter. "I'm 28, Maya said. "So? They'll say I'm too young. They would say that if you were 48. They'll say I'm emotional. Then be precise. They'll say I only care because I'm black." Judge Carter went silent for a moment. Then she said, "Maya, people who benefit from injustice always question the motives of those who challenge it." Maya closed her eyes. "I don't know if I can walk into a police department like that and not see my father." "You will see him," Judge Carter said. "The question is whether you will also see everyone else waiting behind him." That sentence stayed with her. The elderly veterans, the mothers, the sons, the men and women whose complaints had been folded, stamped, misplaced, and forgotten. So Maya accepted, not because she was unafraid, because fear was no longer a good enough reason to let the wrong people keep the keys. A sharp knock brought her back to the office. David opened the door slightly. "They're gathering in the command room," he said. "Whitmore is still in the hallway. Brooks hasn't moved. Hales just entered through the rear lot." Maya picked up the fountain pen and placed it in her coat pocket. "Good," she said. David looked at her. "Good?" "Yes. Now we know he was close enough to intervene." She took the folder from the desk and walked toward the door. Before opening it, she paused once, not from doubt, but from memory. Her father had once told her that dignity was quiet because it did not need permission. Maya opened the door. Dale Whitmore stood in the hallway. Pale with anger he could no longer spend freely. Eli Brooks stood near the records corridor, his eyes moving between Maya and the locked door where Ranger still waited. At the far end, Deputy Chief Martin Hales had arrived. He wore a dark suit instead of a uniform, and his expression showed practiced concern, the kind men used when they arrived late to a fire they had helped start. "Maya William?" Hales said, forcing a polite smile. "I'm Deputy Chief Martin Hales. I apologize for any confusion this morning." Maya walked toward him. "There was no confusion," she said. The hallway went silent again. This time, it was not because of Whitmore. It was because everyone understood that Maya William had walked into the building as a stranger, but she was no longer moving like one, and whatever had been hidden in Fairmont was beginning to run out of places to hide. The silence lingered after Maya's words. There was no confusion. Deputy Chief Martin Hales kept the polite smile on his face, but something tightened around his eyes. He was a man who had spent years navigating city politics, disciplinary hearings, and public meetings. He knew how to control a room. What unsettled him was that Maya William did not seem interested in being controlled. "Perhaps we should talk privately," Hales said. "We will," Maya replied. She continued walking. Hales instinctively stepped aside. Nobody missed it. For the first time that morning, someone had yielded ground to Maya instead of the other way around. The command conference room sat at the far end of the administration wing. By the time Maya entered, the mayor, city attorney, and several department supervisors were already seated around a long table. Conversations stopped immediately. Every face turned toward her. Some looked curious. Some looked nervous. A few looked openly irritated. Maya recognized the type. People who had spent years operating inside a comfortable system rarely welcomed outsiders, especially outsiders who might change things. The mayor stood. Mayor Robert Kessler was in his 60s, silver-haired, careful with his words and even more careful with his public image. "Miss William," he said. "Welcome to Fairmont." "Thank you, Mayor." They shook hands. His grip was firm. His smile was practiced. Neither trusted the other yet. The city attorney offered a nod. The supervisors remained seated. One of them, Lieutenant Greg Morton, folded his arms across his chest and looked directly at Maya's face before glancing briefly toward Hales. The gesture lasted less than a second, but Maya noticed. People always revealed alliances when they thought nobody was paying attention. "Please," the mayor said, "have a seat." Maya sat near the center of the table. David Monroe took the chair beside her. Hales settled across from them. The meeting began with formal introductions. Names, ranks, responsibilities, years of service. As each person spoke, Maya took notes. Not because she needed reminders. Because people behaved differently when they believed their words were being recorded. 20 minutes later, the meeting ended. Nothing meaningful had been said. The supervisors praised the department. The city attorney praised community partnerships. The mayor praised public safety. Hales praised departmental professionalism. No one mentioned the federal investigation. No one mentioned missing complaints. No one mentioned racial disparities. It was a performance, and everyone in the room knew it. When the last supervisor left, Maya remained seated. Only 4 people stayed behind. Maya, David, Hales, the mayor. The atmosphere changed immediately. The masks became harder to maintain. Mayor Kessler cleared his throat. "Now that we're alone, perhaps we can discuss expectations." "Good," Maya said. She opened her folder. Not all the way, just enough to remove a single document. She slid it across the table. The mayor read first, then Hales. Neither looked pleased. "This authorizes a full administrative review?" Hales asked. "Yes." "Every division?" "Yes." "Personnel files?" "Yes." "Internal investigations?" "Yes." Hales leaned back. "That will create significant disruption. Maya metiskaze. If there wasn't a problem here, Washington wouldn't have sent me." The room fell quiet. The mayor slowly folded the document. "We all want what's best for Fairmont." "I hope that's true," Maya said. The mayor studied her carefully. "You think we're hiding something? I think the Department of Justice spent 6 months collecting evidence before assigning me here." Nobody responded. That told Maya enough. The meeting ended shortly afterward. As she left the conference room, David caught up beside her. "You made them uncomfortable." "They should be." "You think Hales is involved?" "I think Hales knew Whitmore would be waiting for me this morning." David nodded. "That was my impression too." Maya looked toward the administration hallway. "I want personnel record." "You'll get them." "Complaint histories." "Already requested." "Promotion reviews." David smiled slightly. "You came prepared." "No," Maya said. "I came cautious." Back in her temporary office, she locked the door. The room was finally quiet. For the first time all day, she allowed herself to sit. She removed the fountain pen from her pocket and rolled it slowly between her fingers. Judge Evelyn Carter's words returned immediately. They always did when decisions became difficult. 3 months earlier, Maya had been sitting in a conference room in Washington. The federal investigation into Fairmont had just concluded. The evidence covered an entire table. Civilian complaints, financial records, body camera discrepancies, missing reports, internal disciplinary files. The findings painted an ugly picture. When the presentation ended, Assistant Attorney General Robert Lawson looked directly at Maya. "We want you to take temporary command." Maya had stared at him. "No." The answer came so quickly that even she surprised herself. Lawson blinked. No? You need someone older. Why? They won't listen to me. Lawson folded his hands. Maya, they'll see a 28-year-old black woman. Yes. They'll dismiss me before I finish introducing myself. Lawson shook his head. They'll dismiss anyone threatening their system. Maya remained unconvinced. The discussion lasted almost an hour. Nothing changed. She left Washington that evening believing the assignment would go to someone else. 3 days later, Judge Evelyn Carter called. How long are you planning to run? Maya recognized the voice immediately. Good evening to you too. Answer the question. Maya Sahil. I already said no. Why? You know why. Say it anyway. Maya stared out her apartment window. Because they're waiting for me to fail. Who? The officers. The politicians. The local media. Half the town. Judge Carter laughed. Only half? Maya smiled despite herself. Then the smile disappeared. You didn't see the reports. I did. They hate oversight. Most people hate accountability. They'll attack everything. Judge Carter's voice softened. Will they attack your age? Yes. Your race? Yes. Your gender? Yes. Then let them. Maya closed her eyes. For a moment neither spoke. Finally she said what had been bothering her from the beginning. When I walk into a place like that, I don't see statistics. What do you see? My father. The silence that followed lasted several seconds. Judge Carter understood immediately. You think that makes you weak? Doesn't it? No. Maya looked down. It feels personal. It is personnel. That's the problem. No, Judge Carter said firmly. That's why you'll care enough to finish. Maya didn't answer. Judge Carter continued. Do you know what happened after your father's funeral? What? I received 12 letters. 12? 12 people telling me Samuel William helped them when nobody else would. Maya swallowed. She had never heard that. One was from a student. One was from a veteran. One was from a single mother. Your father spent his life standing up for people who couldn't stand alone. Judge Carter paused. Now you're being asked to do the same. The memory faded as someone knocked on Maya's office door. She looked up. Come in. David entered carrying several folders. Personnel record. Maya gestured toward the desk. Anything interesting? A lot. David placed the files down. Hales promoted 3 officers with disciplinary histories. Whitmore? Twice. Maya nodded slowly. That wasn't surprising. What else? David opened another folder. 1 officer filed for transfer twice. Denied both times. Brooks. Maya remembered the young officer from the hallway. The one who almost spoke. The one who looked afraid. Bring me his evaluations. David handed over the file. Maya began reading. The first page described Eli Brooks as reliable, disciplined, and cooperative. The second page described him as lacking leadership initiative. The third described him as resistant to department culture. Maya stopped. That phrase. David looked down. Department culture? Yes. Interesting? Very. Most supervisors used that phrase when an officer refused to go along with something. Maya turned another page. Then another. A pattern began emerging. Brooks asked questions. Brooks documented inconsistencies. Brooks filed concerns. Brooks was repeatedly sidelined. Maya closed the folder. He knows something. David nodded. I think so too. Another low growl echoed from outside the office. Both turned toward the door. Ranger. The old dog again. Maya stood. He's still near that records corridor? According to Brooks, he goes there every day. Every day? David nodded. Same spot. Maya thought about the locked room, the nervous looks, the missing records, the dog's behavior. Something important sat behind that door. Something people did not want discovered. And if her instincts were right, Ranger had been trying to point them toward it for a very long time. Maya picked up her father's fountain pen and slipped it back into her pocket. Then she stood. Let's take another walk. David smiled. To the records corridor? Maya nodded. Yes, because somewhere inside Fairmont Police Department, the truth was waiting. And for the first time in years, someone had arrived who intended to find it. Maya walked back into the hallway with David Monroe beside her. The moment she appeared, conversation stopped. Dale Whitmore stood near the reception counter with his arms crossed, trying to look angry instead of shaken. Deputy Chief Martin Hales was speaking quietly with Lieutenant Greg Morton near the far wall. Eli Brooks remained close to the records corridor, pretending to check something on his phone while keeping one eye on Ranger. The old dog had not moved. He sat in front of the locked storage door, alert and stubborn, his nose pointed toward the seam near the floor. Maya looked at Eli. How long has he been doing that? Eli glanced toward Hales before answering. A while. How long is a while? He hesitated. Months. Whitmore cut in before Eli could say more. It's an old dog with bad habits. That's all. Maya turned to him. I didn't ask you. A quiet pressure filled the hallway. Whitmore's mouth tightened, but he said nothing. That silence told Maya the first real shift had begun. He still hated her. But now he was calculating. He had seen enough in her folder to understand that she was not an ordinary visitor. He did not yet know how much power she had, and that uncertainty was working on him. Maya faced Eli again. Officer Brooks, who has access to this door? Eli looked at the lock. Records Division, Deputy Chief Hales, Lieutenant Morton, sometimes Officer Whitmore. Sometimes? Maya asked. He comes back here when he wants old files. Whitmore stepped forward. That's police business. Maya looked at him. Then you should have no problem with me reviewing it. Hales approached with a controlled smile. Miss William, if I may, the records area contains sensitive materials. Personnel files, active cases, juvenile information. We need to follow proper procedure. Maya nodded once. Good. Start following it. Hales's smile weakened. David took out a notepad. Deputy Chief Hales, please provide the access log for this storage room. Hales blinked. The log? Yes, David said. The entry log. Keycard history. Manual sign-in sheet. Any record showing who opened this room and when. Hales looked toward Morton. Morton looked away. Maya saw it. There was no log, or there was one they did not want her to see. We'll locate it, Hales said. When? Maya asked. As soon as possible. That is not a time. Hales took a breath. By the end of the day. Maya looked at David. Put that in writing. David wrote it down. Whitmore shook his head. This is ridiculous. Maya turned. What is? You walking in here and treating everybody like criminals. No, Maya said. I'm treating this department like an institution under review. Whitmore laughed without humor. Same thing coming from people like you. The hallway reacted before Maya did. Eli looked up sharply. Carol Benson, the receptionist, froze at her desk. Even Hales seemed irritated, not because Whitmore had said something wrong, but because he had said it too soon, in front of the wrong people. Maya stepped closer to Whitmore. Say that again? Whitmore held her stare. I said people from Washington don't understand towns like this. That is not what you said. His face hardened. I said what I said. No, Maya replied. You said what you are. For a moment, Whitmore looked ready to explode. Then Hales placed a hand on his arm. Dale, he said quietly. Enough. Maya noticed the familiarity. Not Officer Whitmore. Dolly. The old network was showing itself one small mistake at a time. From the lobby, the elderly man with the traffic citation slowly rose from the bench. He had been watching the entire exchange. His gray cap was pressed between his hands. Maya turned toward him. Sir, have you been helped? He looked surprised to be addressed. No, ma'am. How long have you been waiting? He checked the clock. Almost an hour. Carol quickly stood. I was just about to. Maya raised a hand. Carol stopped. What is your name, sir? Maya asked. Walter Jennings. Mr. Jennings, what did you come in for? He held up the folded citation. I came to ask about this ticket. Officer said I failed to stop at a sign over on Pine Street. But I did stop. I always stop there. My wife used to fuss at me for stopping too long. His voice weakened at the mention of his wife. Maya's expression softened. How old are you, Mr. Jennings? 74. Were you given instructions on how to contest it? He looked at the paper. No, ma'am. Officer told me if I made trouble, I'd end up paying more. Whitmore rolled his eyes. Maya saw it. So did Mr. Jennings. The old man lowered his gaze immediately. There it was again. A body trained to become smaller in the presence of a badge. Maya looked at Carol. Please give Mr. Jennings a printed explanation of his rights to contest the citation, the court date, and the number for legal aid. Carol nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Maya turned back to Mr. Jennings. You have the right to question a ticket without being threatened. The old man looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Thank you. 2 words. But the hallway felt them. Whitmore muttered something under his breath. Maya heard enough. What was that? He did not answer. David stepped closer. Officer Whitmore, from this point forward, you will speak clearly or not at all. Whitmore glared at him. Hales intervened again. We are all adjusting to a new process. Emotions are high. Maya looked at Hales. Emotions did not shove me away from that door. Officer Whitmore did. The words landed hard. Hales said nothing. Maya continued down the corridor. She passed the bulletin board where community notices were pinned under outdated police flyers. A church fish fry. A veteran's breakfast. A missing dog notice. A blood drive at First Baptist. Fairmont was not just a department. It was a town full of people who still brought casseroles when someone died, still waved from porches, still remembered high school football scores from 30 years ago. That was why corruption in a place like this hurt differently. It did not only break policy, it broke trust between neighbors. At the records corridor, Ranger stood. Eli stepped beside him. He belonged to Sergeant Paul Reeves, Eli said quietly. Maya looked at him. The former Connie handler? Eli nodded. He filed a complaint 2 years ago. Said evidence was being moved without logs. Said some body cam drives went missing. What happened to him? Medical retirement. Maya looked at Eli. Was he injured? Eli's jaw tightened. Not physically. Maya understood. A man did not need broken bones to be pushed out of a department. What happened to Ranger? David asked. He stayed, Eli said. Nobody wanted him. Sergeant Reeves asked if I'd check on him when I could. Ranger pressed his nose against the bottom of the locked door. Maya crouched slightly, not touching him yet. What are you trying to tell us, old man? Whitmore's voice came from behind. This is embarrassing. Are we taking orders from a dog now? Maya stood. No, we are taking warnings from him. Hales gave a careful laugh. Miss William, with respect, we cannot open a secured records room because a retired K-9 is restless. Maya turned to him. You're right. We can open it because a federal administrative review requires access to all records, storage areas. Hales's face tightened again. Maya looked at David. Request the key. David faced Hales. Deputy Chief? Hales did not move. I'll need to locate it. Eli spoke before he could stop himself. Lieutenant Morton has one. Everyone turned. Morton, who had been standing near the back, stiffened. Whitmore stared at Eli with open warning. Eli swallowed, but this time he did not look away. Maya's voice stayed calm. Lieutenant Morton, bring the key. Morton glanced at Hales. Hales gave the smallest shake of his head. Maya saw it. So did David. So did Ellie. Morton said, I don't have it on me. Maya nodded once. Then retrieve it. I'd need authorization. You have it. Morton did not move. Maya stepped closer. Lieutenant, this is not a request. For the first time, Morton looked uncertain. Whitmore stepped in. You don't get to talk to him like that. Maya turned on him. And you no longer get to decide who is allowed to speak in this building. The hallway went still again. But this time, the silence was different. It was not fear. It was expectation. Someone was finally saying aloud what too many people had swallowed for years. Hales forced another smile. Let's not escalate this. Maya kept her eyes on Morton. The key, Lieutenant. Morton's face flushed. Then he reached slowly into his pocket. Whitmore stared at him. Greg. Morton did not look at him. He pulled out a small brass key and held it in his palm. Maya did not take it. She looked at Eli. Officer Brooks, open the door. Eli froze. Whitmore snapped, Don't you touch that lock. Maya's voice cut through him. Officer Brooks. Eli looked at her. For a second, Maya saw the battle inside him. Fear against duty, survival against conscience. The old habit of silence against the oath he had once believed in. Then Eli took the key. His hand trembled as he stepped toward the door. Ranger moved aside. Eli inserted the key into the lock. Behind them, Whitmore's breathing grew heavy. Hale's face went pale. The key turned. The lock clicked. And before the door even opened, the stale smell of paper, dust, and hidden things slipped into the hallway. Maya looked at Whitmore, then at Hales. Neither man spoke. She already knew why. The true face of the Fairmont Police Department was not in the lobby, not in the framed photographs, not in the speeches about service. It was behind that door, and now it was opening. The door opened only a few inches before Deputy Chief Martin Hales spoke. Stop. Eli Brooks froze with his hand still on the knob. Maya turned slowly. Hales had lost the polished calm he wore in meetings. His face was controlled, but his voice had sharpened. It was the first real emotion Maya had heard from him all morning. That room contains archived materials, Hales said. Some of them may involve active litigation. We need to secure a chain of custody before anyone enters. David Monroe stepped forward. That is exactly what we are doing. Hales looked at him. With all due respect, counselor, you are not familiar with our filing system. David did not blink. That appears to be the problem. Whitmore moved beside Hales, grateful for the interruption. You heard the deputy chief, he said. Close it. Eli did not move. Maya looked at him. Officer Brooks, leave the door as it is. Eli nodded once. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. You want to be careful, Brooks. That warning was quiet, but everyone heard it. Maya stepped between Whitmore and Eli. Officer Whitmore, one more threat toward an officer cooperating with this review, and I will have you removed from this building. Whitmore's mouth tightened. Hales lifted a hand. No one is threatening anyone. Maya looked directly at him. Then stop protecting the man who is. The hallway went silent. Hales held her gaze for a few seconds too long. Maya had seen that look before. It was not surprise. It was calculation. Hales was deciding how much she knew, who had spoken to her, and how much time he had left to control the damage. He had not intervened when Whitmore shoved her. He had not appeared when she was insulted. He had entered only after David arrived, only after the folder had startled Whitmore, only after the atmosphere had shifted. That was not coincidence. That was strategy. Maya turned back to the door. Open it. Eli pulled the door wide. The small room beyond was packed with file boxes stacked against the walls. Some were labeled by year. Others had no labels at all. Several cardboard boxes sat under a folding table. A metal cabinet in the corner had a broken handle. On the table, 3 black plastic cases were lined up side by side. David stepped in first and took photos on his phone. Maya followed. Ranger entered behind her and went straight to the folding table. He pressed his nose against one of the black cases and let out a low whine. Eli stopped at the doorway. I've never been allowed in here. Maya looked back. Who told you that? Lieutenant Morton, Officer Whitmore, Deputy Chief Hales. Hales answered from the hallway. For good reason. Not every officer has access to sensitive records. Maya picked up one of the black cases. It had no evidence sticker, no case number, no date. She handed it to David. Bag this. David placed it carefully into an evidence pouch from his briefcase. Whitmore scoffed. You people brought evidence bags to a staff meeting? Maya faced him. No. We brought them to a police department, under federal review. The words landed harder than Whitmore expected. He looked at Hales. Hales did not look back. That was the first crack between them. Maya opened the nearest file box. Inside were civilian complaints. Dozens of them, some handwritten, some typed, some printed from online forms. Many had red stamps across the front. Resolved. Unfounded. No action required. She lifted one folder. Walter Jennings. Maya looked toward the lobby. The 74-year-old man was still standing near the front desk, holding his citation and watching from a distance. She opened the file. The complaint was 2 years old. Walter Jennings had reported that an officer stopped him after a veteran's breakfast, accused him of running a stop sign, searched his truck, and mocked his military service when he objected. The officer named in the complaint was Dale Whitmore. The reviewing supervisor was Martin Hales. The complaint had been dismissed in 1 day. Maya closed the folder. Mr. Jennings filed a complaint before. Hales stepped forward. I don't know every complaint by memory. No, Maya said. But you signed this one. Hales did not answer. Whitmore folded his arms. Old people complain when they get tickets. Maya looked at him. He was a veteran. So? That one word changed the hallway. Even officers who had stayed neutral looked uncomfortable. Fairmont was a town where veterans were honored at football games, church breakfasts, and Memorial Day parades. Men like Whitmore loved the flag when it gave them applause. They seemed less interested when the flag belonged to a black man asking for fairness. Maya placed the file on the table. David, mark this box for immediate review. David nodded. Maya opened another box, then another. The pattern appeared quickly. Black drivers, Latino workers, poor white residents from the trailer park outside town, elderly citizens, people with no lawyers, people who could be pressured, delayed, ignored, and worn down. The names changed. The story did not. Whitmore's name appeared again and again. Morton's signature appeared on several reviews. Hales's initials were everywhere. Maya felt the old anger rise, but she did not let it lead. Anger could point to the fire. It could not be allowed to hold the hose. She kept reading. David photographed labels and recorded box numbers. Eli stood at the door, watching each file as if every folder confirmed something he had feared for years. Maya noticed his face. "You recognize these?" Eli swallowed. "Some." "From where?" "People came in asking about them. They were told the complaints had been forwarded." "Forwarded where?" He looked at Hales. "To administration." Maya followed his gaze. Hales adjusted his cuffs. "That was the process." "No," Maya said. "That was the graveyard." No one spoke. Ranger scratched once at the metal cabinet. Maya turned. "What is in there?" Eli answered quietly. "Old camera drives, I think." Whitmore snapped. "You don't know what you're talking about." Maya looked at Eli. "Do you have a key?" "No." David examined the cabinet. "The handle is damaged." Maya looked at Hales. "Who has access?" Hales answered too quickly. "Record staff. Names." "I'd have to check." "You seem to have to check everything that matters." His face hardened. "Miss William, I have tried to be cooperative." Maya stepped out of the room and faced him in the hallway. "No, Deputy Chief. You have tried to appear cooperative. There is a difference." Hales's mask slipped for 1 second. There it was. Resentment. Not fear yet. Fear would come later. "You are walking into a department you do not understand," he said. "I understand enough." "No. You understand reports, numbers, complaints from people who already dislike police." Maya's voice stayed steady. "I understand that complaints were hidden in a locked room. Archived. Buried." Hales leaned closer. "Careful." David moved beside Maya. "Deputy Chief, I strongly recommend you reconsider your tone." Hales ignored him. "This town has survived because we know how to keep order." Maya looked down the hallway at the officers, the locked room, the receptionist who had finally stopped pretending not to listen, and Walter Jennings standing with his cap in his hand. "Order for whom?" she asked. Hales did not answer. He did not need to. Maya already knew. For people like Hales, order meant quiet victims. It meant paperwork that disappeared. It meant officers who looked away. It meant citizens who learned that complaining only made life harder. It meant a man like Dale Whitmore could shove a woman away from a door and expect the building to protect him. Maya turned to Eli. "Officer Brooks, did you ever report concerns about missing files?" Eli's face changed. Whitmore stepped forward. "Don't answer that." Maya did not look at Whitmore. "Officer Brooks?" Eli's throat moved. "Yes." "When?" "Last year. Twice." "To whom?" Eli looked at Hales. The hallway tightened. Hales gave him a small warning look. Ellie saw it. Maya saw him see it. This was the moment. Not the whole truth. Not yet, but the first choice that mattered. Eli took a breath. "To Deputy Chief Hales." Whitmore cursed under his breath. Hales's face went still. Maya nodded. "What happened after that?" Eli looked down, then forced himself to look back up. "My shift changed. My patrol partner was reassigned. My transfer request disappeared." Maya let the words remain in the air. Then she turned to Hales. "You received internal concerns about missing records, and the officer who raised them was punished." Hales's voice cooled. "That is his interpretation." "No," Maya said. "That is his testimony." Hales looked toward the front entrance. For the first time, Maya saw him check exits. Not openly, not dramatically, just a quick glance, a man measuring his options. Maya turned to David. "Document Officer Brooks as a protected cooperating witness for this administrative review." David wrote it down immediately. Whitmore laughed bitterly. "You're making him a hero now?" Maya looked at him. "No. I'm giving him the protection this department should have given him when he told the truth." Eli's eyes lowered. For a moment, he looked ashamed. Not because he had spoken, because he had waited so long. Maya understood that kind of shame. It lived in institutions where decent people were taught that survival required silence. Ranger scratched the cabinet again. This time harder. David looked at Maya. "We need that opened." Maya nodded. "Call a certified evidence technician. Until then, seal this corridor." Hales objected immediately. "You cannot shut down access to departmental records." "I just did." This will interfere with operations. Good, Maya said. Some operations need to be interrupted. Whitmore stepped toward her. You think you can walk in here and tear apart everything we built? Maya turned to him. No, Officer Whitmore. I think you already tore it apart. I'm just opening the room where you stored the pieces. His face reddened. Hales placed a hand on Whitmore's arm again. But this time Whitmore pulled away. The bond between them was weakening. Not because Whitmore had found a conscience. Because guilty men become loyal only until they believe someone else may sacrifice them first. Maya saw it clearly. Hales was the calmer one. Whitmore was the louder one. But the files told a different story. Whitmore had been the fist. Hales had been the hand deciding where it struck. Maya looked once more into the storage room. The boxes were only the beginning. Behind the missing files were missing people. Missing money. Missing truth. She turned to Eli. Stay near, Ranger. Yes, ma'am. Then she looked at Hales. You and I will speak privately now. Hales' expression did not change, but his eyes did. Maya had found the man who looked away. Now she needed to prove he had been watching the whole time. Martin Hales entered the conference room without waiting for an invitation. The moment the door closed behind him, the confident deputy chief returned. The nervous glances were gone. The careful expressions disappeared. For the first time all day, Maya saw the man who had truly been running Fairmont Police Department. Hales sat down across from her. David Monroe remained near the door, legal pad in hand. Nobody spoke immediately. The silence belonged to Maya. She wanted Hales to fill it. Most people eventually did. Hales folded his hands. I've spent 23 years serving this town. Maya waited. I know these people. Still, she said nothing. I know the officers. I know the families. I know the community. Maya finally spoke. Then why were complaints hidden in a locked room? The question landed exactly where she wanted it. Hales's jaw tightened. They weren't hidden. They were inaccessible. Archived. Without documentation. That's a matter of procedure. No, Maya said. That's a matter of accountability. Hales leaned back. I think you're making assumptions. I think I'm reading records. The deputy chief stared at her. You walked into this department less than a day ago, and yet I've already found problems. You found paperwork. Maya opened one of the folders David had brought from the storage room. Walter Jennings. She slid it across the table. You signed this complaint review. Hales glanced down. Years ago. You dismissed it within 24 hours. Because it lacked evidence. The complainant was a 72-year-old veteran. That doesn't make him right. No, Maya said, but it should have earned him a proper review. Hales remained silent. Maya opened another file. Then another. Then another. Everyone carried familiar signatures. Whitmore. Morton. Hales. Different names. Different incidents. The same outcome. Dismissed. Unfounded. Insuffisante évidence. No further action. She stacked the files together. Interesting pattern. Or efficiente administration. Is that what you call it? What do you call it? Maya met his eyes. I call it a system that stopped listening. Hales exhaled slowly. This is exactly why Washington shouldn't run local departments. No, Maya replied. This is exactly why Washington gets involved. The conversation continued for another 20 minutes. Every answer Hales gave sounded polished. Every explanation seemed reasonable on the surface. That was what made him dangerous. Whitmore acted with emotion. Hales acted with calculation. Whitmore created problems. Hales managed consequences. When the meeting finally ended, Maya had not received a confession. She had received something more useful. A map. Every question that made Hales uncomfortable pointed somewhere important. Every topic he avoided highlighted another area requiring investigation. After he left, David closed the door. What do you think? Maya gathered the files. I think he expected me to focus on Whitmore. You don't think Whitmore is the main problem? He's part of the problem. David nodded. And Hales? Maya looked toward the hallway. Hales is the man who made sure the problem survived. David smiled slightly. That matches my notes. A knock interrupted them. Eli Brooks stepped into the room. He looked nervous. Sorry to bother you. You aren't bothering us, Maya said. Eli closed the door behind him. His eyes immediately checked the hallway before returning to Maya. That habit told her a great deal. He had spent too much time watching who might be listening. What can I do for you? Maya asked. Eli hesitated. Then he reached into his pocket. I found something. He placed a folded sheet of paper on the table. Maya opened it. It was a list. Dates, case numbers, complaint references. Several were marked missing. Others had notes beside them. Transferred, moved, restricted. The handwriting belonged to Eli. You made this? He nodded. Over the last year, David looked surprised. You tracked all this yourself? I wasn't trying to. Then why do it? Eli looked down. Because things kept disappearing. Maya remained quiet. Eli continued. People would come in asking about complaints. They'd call for updates. Sometimes attorneys would request records. And suddenly nobody could find them. David exchanged a glance with Maya. How many cases? He asked. I stopped counting after 30. The room fell silent. 30 missing or altered cases. 30 opportunities for someone to avoid accountability. 30 reasons the federal government had sent Maya to Fairmont. Did you report this? Maya asked. Yes. To who? Deputy Chief Hales. What happened? Eli laughed once. There was no humor in it. You already know. Maya did. His transfers disappeared. His evaluations changed. His career stalled. The message had been clear. Stop asking questions. Maya closed the list. Thank you. Eli looked surprised. For what? For staying honest. The young officer looked away. Honestly, I wasn't brave. Why do you say that? Because I waited. The answer came quickly. Too quickly, meaning he had been carrying it for a long time. Maya understood. She remembered years of watching her father pretend things were fine. She remembered neighbors who knew what happened to him but stayed silent. She remembered teachers who looked uncomfortable but never spoke. Fear rarely appeared as cruelty. Most of the time it appeared as silence. You're here now, Maya said. That matters. Eli nodded. The conversation ended shortly afterward. As he reached the door, Maya stopped him. Officer Brooks. He turned. Why did you stay? The question surprised him. Stay? In this department. Eli thought for a moment. My grandfather was a police officer. Good man? The best. What did he teach you? Eli smiled faintly. He used to say the badge belongs to the public. We only borrow it. Maya nodded. That's a good lesson. He believed it. So do I. Eli left. When the door closed, David looked at Maya. He's solid. Yes. He'll become a target. He already is. David couldn't argue with that. The afternoon moved quickly. More files arrived. Personnel record. Complaint summaries. Disciplinary reviews. Promotion recommendations. Maya spent hours reading. Patterns continued emerging. Officers who raised concerns received poor evaluations. Officers loyal to Whitmore advanced quickly. Citizen complaints vanished at unusual rates. Review boards consistently reached identical conclusions. Individually, each issue could be explained. Together, they formed something harder to ignore. Near 4 o'clock, David returned from the records corridor. The evidence technician is here. Maya looked up. The cabinet? Ready to be opened. They immediately headed toward the secured area. Several officers had gathered nearby. Word had spread. People were watching now. Not openly, but enough. Hales stood near the corridor entrance. Whitmore remained beside him. The relationship between them had changed during the day. Maya could see it. Whitmore looked angry. Hales looked worried. Those were not the same thing. The evidence technician knelt beside the damaged cabinet. Stand back, please. Everyone complied. Ranger sat nearby, watching, waiting. The technician examined the lock. Won't take long. Minutes passed. Then came a metallic click. The cabinet opened. Nobody spoke. Inside sat dozens of hard drives. Rows of them. Labeled by date. Case numbers. Patrol units. Body camera archives. Maya immediately noticed something strange. Several slots were empty. Many more than should have been. The technician frowned. These drives were removed. David stepped closer. How can you tell? Because the inventory stickers remain. He pointed. Each empty slot still carried a reference number. The drives themselves were gone. Maya felt the atmosphere change. Hales looked away. Whitmore stared at the floor. Neither man wanted to explain the missing evidence. That told her everything. David slowly counted. 12 missing. The technician shook his head. No. He continued checking. Then looked up. 21. Nobody moved. 21 missing evidence drives. 21 missing pieces of history. 21 opportunities to erase what actually happened during police encounters. Maya looked directly at Hales. When were these removed? I don't know. Who has access? I don't know. You seem not to know a great deal about things under your supervision. His expression hardened. This department isn't as simple as you think. Maya stepped closer. No. Her voice remained calm. It's worse. The corridor fell silent. Even Whitmore said nothing, because for the first time since Maya entered Fairmont Police Department, the investigation was no longer built on suspicion. Now it was built on evidence, and evidence was much harder to bury. The 21 missing drives changed the building. Before that moment, some officers could still tell themselves this was only a tense first day. A new official from Washington had arrived. A rude officer had crossed a line. Old complaints had been found in a storage room. Bad paperwork could be blamed on poor management. But missing evidence was different. Missing evidence did not happen by accident 21 times. Maya stood in the records corridor while David Monroe documented every empty slot in the cabinet. The evidence technician photographed the inventory labels. Eli Brooks watched from beside Ranger, his face tense but focused. Deputy Chief Martin Hales remained near the wall. Dale Whitmore stood beside him, but the space between them had grown wider. Maya noticed that too. Guilty men stood close when they believed they were protected. They separated when they began looking for someone to blame. David finished writing and looked up. We need to secure every drive in this cabinet. Maya nodded. Do it. Hales stepped forward. That will disrupt ongoing cases. Maya turned to him. Missing evidence already disrupted them. These archives may include sensitive investigations. Then they should have been protected. Hales lowered his voice. You are moving too fast. No, Maya said. I am moving before anything else disappears. Whitmore made a sharp sound. You keep talking like somebody here is destroying evidence. Maya looked at the empty slots. Someone is. He said nothing. Ranger suddenly stood. The old German shepherd turned away from the cabinet and walked deeper into the storage room. He sniffed along the floor, past 2 stacks of cardboard boxes, then stopped near a metal shelf pushed against the back wall. Eli followed him. Ranger? The dog scratched at the floor. Once, twice. Then he sat and stared at Maya. The room went quiet. Whitmore shook his head. This is insane. Maya ignored him. Officer Brooks, what is behind that shelf? Eli looked at it. I don't know. I've never seen anyone move it. David stepped closer and examined the shelf. It's heavy. The evidence technician pointed to the bottom. Scrape marks. Maya crouched slightly. He was right. Faint marks crossed the floor beneath the shelf, as if it had been moved more than once. Hales spoke quickly. This room has been reorganized many times. Maya stood. By whom? I don't have every maintenance detail memorized. You seem to remember very little when memory becomes inconvenient. His face tightened. Maya looked at the technician. Can we move it without disturbing anything? Yes, if we document first. Document it. The technician photographed the shelf, the floor, the wall, and Ranger sitting beside it. David recorded the time. Whitmore stepped toward the door. Maya saw him. Officer Whitmore. He stopped. Where are you going? To get air. You will stay. I'm not under arrest. No, you are under administrative order. Whitmore's jaw worked, but he stayed. Eli and the technician moved the shelf carefully. It resisted at first, then scraped backward across the floor. Behind it was a square panel in the wall, painted the same dull color as the plaster, almost invisible unless someone knew where to look. Ranger gave one short bark. Eli stared at it. I didn't know that was there. Maya believed him. She looked at Hales. He said nothing. David stepped closer. There's a latch. The technician put on gloves and opened the panel. Inside was a narrow cavity. At first, it looked empty. Then the technician reached in and pulled out a sealed plastic bag. Then another. Then a third. Each bag contained small digital storage cards, folded papers, and handwritten notes. David's face hardened. Chain of custody starts now. The technician nodded and began labeling each item. Maya did not touch anything. She read what she could through the clear plastic. Names. Dates. Badge numbers. Initials. One note caught her attention immediately. WJ Stop Body Cam pulled DW. Walter Jennings. Dale Whitmore. Maya looked toward Whitmore. For the first time, his anger failed to hide his fear. That could mean anything, he said. Nobody asked you what it meant. His face flushed. Ranger kept staring at the wall cavity. Eli swallowed. Commissioner William. Maya turned to him. What is it? He pointed to another bag. Inside was a small handwritten list. At the top were 2 words: problem complaints. Below them were names: Walter Jennings, Marisol Vega, Andra Coleman, Lucille Price, Thomas Reed. Maya recognized several from the missing file list Eli had brought her. David leaned closer. "These are the same cases." "Yes," Maya said. Her voice stayed controlled, but inside she felt the weight of it. These were not clerical errors. Someone had selected certain complaints, removed supporting evidence, and separated the truth from the official record. That required access, planning, protection. Ranger lowered himself to the floor and rested his head near the wall, as if his work had finally been understood. Eli crouched beside him and placed a hand on his back. "Good boy," he said quietly. Maya looked at the old dog. For years, Ranger had been dismissed as useless, too old for patrol, too slow for active service. A leftover from a handler the department had pushed out, but he had remembered what humans chose to forget, or maybe he had simply returned, day after day, to the place where the truth still had a scent. Hales cleared his throat. "We need to be careful about jumping to conclusions." Maya faced him. "Deputy Chief, 21 evidence drives are missing. Civilian complaints were found in an unsecured room. Additional storage cards were hidden behind a wall panel. Several of those items appear tied to complaints your office dismissed." Hales remained still. Maya continued, "That is not a conclusion. That is a trail." David looked toward her. "We should contact Federal Evidence Recovery." "Do it." Hales objected. "This is a local facility. It is now a federal review site. The mayor should be consulted. He will be informed." "That's not how we do things here." Maya stepped toward him. "That is becoming very clear." The words ended the argument. David made the call. The technician sealed the recovered items. Eli remained beside Ranger. Whitmore finally spoke again. "You people think you can tear apart a department because of some old complaints and a dog scratching a wall." Maya turned to him. "No, Officer Whitmore. This department is being torn apart because people trusted you with power, and you used it against them." He looked at Hales. This time, Hales still did not look back. Maya saw Whitmore understand it. Whatever protection he thought he had, it was thinning. That would make him dangerous. Men like Whitmore did not confess when cornered. They attacked. They blamed. They threatened the weakest person in the room. Maya looked at Eli. "Officer Brooks, come with us." Eli stood. Whitmore pointed at him. "You better think carefully about what side you're choosing." Eli went pale. Maya stepped in before he could answer. He chose the side he swore an oath to. Whitmore stared at her. Maya held his gaze until he looked away. That small act mattered. Not because it defeated him, because others saw it. For years, Whitmore had trained the building to bend around his temper. Now someone had made him look down. David returned. "Federal evidence recovery is on the way. Estimated arrival within the hour." "Good," Maya said. "What now?" Maya looked around the storage room. The hidden panel, the sealed bags, the missing drives, the frightened officers, the deputy chief measuring every word, the angry officer losing control. Then she looked at Ranger. The old dog had done what most of the department had not. He had stayed with the truth. "We protect this room," Maya said. "No one enters without authorization. No one removes anything. Officer Brooks stays with the evidence technician until federal recovery arrives." Eli nodded. "Yes, ma'am." Hales stepped forward. "I still need access to operational records. You can request specific records through David. That is unnecessary. It is now required." His face darkened. For a moment, Maya thought he might say something careless. He did not. That made him more dangerous than Whitmore. Whitmore's hatred was exposed. Hales's was disciplined. Maya walked out of the storage room and returned to the corridor. Several officers had gathered at a distance, pretending not to watch. She addressed them clearly. "This records corridor is sealed under administrative review. Any attempt to enter, remove, alter, or destroy material connected to this review will be treated as obstruction." Nobody moved. Then she added, "If anyone in this department has information about missing complaints, altered reports, or removed camera footage, now is the time to come forward." No one spoke, but 3 officers looked at Eli. That was enough. Fear was still in the building, but now, so was possibility. Maya turned toward the command wing. David joined her. "You think more people will talk?" "Not yet." "When?" "When they realize Hales can't protect them anymore." David glanced back toward the storage room. And Whitmore? Maya's eyes stayed forward. He'll break before Hales does. You're sure? Yes. Why? Because Whitmore believes power is loud. When loud stops working, he won't know what else to use. At the end of the hallway, Ranger barked once. Maya stopped and looked back. The old dog stood in the doorway of the storage room, watching her. Eli was beside him now. For the first time since Maya had arrived, the young officer did not look away. Maya gave him a small nod. He returned it. That was how the investigation truly began. Not with a speech, not with a press conference, not with a public victory. It began with a locked door, a frightened officer, an old dog, and a truth that had waited long enough. By late afternoon, the hallway outside the records corridor had become the center of the department. No one said it openly, but everyone felt it. The real power in Fairmont Police Department was no longer inside the old chief's office. It was no longer with Deputy Chief Martin Hales. It was no longer with Dale Whitmore, who had spent the morning treating the building like his personal property. The power had shifted to the sealed room, the missing drives, the hidden storage cards, and the woman who had refused to be pushed out. Maya Williams stood near the command wing with David Monroe at her side. Federal evidence recovery had arrived 20 minutes earlier. 2 specialists were inside the records room, logging every drive, every file, every hidden item Ranger had led them to. Eli Brooks remained with them. That mattered. Maya had assigned him there deliberately. Not because he was the highest-ranking officer. He was not. Not because he was the most experienced. He was not. But because he had made the first honest choice in a building full of people trained to avoid them. Down the hall, Dale Whitmore paced in short, angry lines. He checked his phone twice, then shoved it back into his pocket. Deputy Chief Hales stood several feet away, speaking quietly with Lieutenant Morton. They were not coordinating anymore. They were separating. Maya watched them without appearing to watch. David leaned closer. You're waiting. Yes. For what? For one of them to make a mistake. David glanced toward Whitmore. My money is on him. Minetu. As if hearing them, Whitmore suddenly turned and walked toward the front desk. His voice rose before he reached it. I want outside counsel on the phone. Now. Carol Benson looked up from her computer. I don't know who you want me to call. Call the city attorney. He's with the mayor. Then interrupt him. Maya stepped forward. No. Whitmore turned. What? You will not use department staff to interfere with this review. His face flushed. I have rights. You do, Maya said. And you may contact an attorney using your personal phone. You will not use public employees as your messengers. He pointed toward the records corridor. You people are tearing through evidence without local command approval. David answered before Maya could. Federal authority has already been established. Whitmore laughed. Established by who? Her? The hallway tightened. Maya said nothing. Whitmore looked around, searching for support. This is what I'm talking about. She walks in here with a folder and a suit from Washington, and all of you just roll over? No one answered. Hales stepped forward carefully. Dale, stop talking. Whitmore snapped toward him. Don't tell me to stop talking. Hales lowered his voice. You are making this worse. For who? Whitmore shot back. Me? Or you? That was the mistake Maya had been waiting for. The words landed in the hallway and stayed there. Hales's face changed. Only slightly, but enough. David wrote something down. Whitmore realized too late that he had said more than he meant to. Maya walked toward them. Officer Whitmore, what did you mean by that? He stared at her. Nothing. No. You asked whether you were making this worse for yourself or Deputy Chief Hales. Why would this be worse for him? Whitmore looked at Hales. This time, Hales did not save him. I said nothing. Maya nodded. Then let me say something. She turned toward the front entrance. David understood before she spoke. He reached into his briefcase and removed a sealed envelope. The same envelope he had carried into the building that morning. Until now, Maya had allowed uncertainty to do its work. She had allowed Whitmore to insult her, Hales to stall her, Morton to hesitate, and the department to reveal itself one reaction at a time. That stage was over. David handed her the envelope. The seal of the Department of Justice was visible from across the hallway. Maya held it at her side and faced the officers gathered within earshot. Everyone in this hallway will remain where they are. No one moved. Even Whitmore stopped pacing. Maya opened the envelope slowly. She removed the official appointment order. The paper was clean, formal, and devastating. Her voice remained steady. My name is Maya William, effective 8 o'clock this morning, by emergency administrative appointment and federal oversight authority. I am the acting police commissioner of the Fairmont Police Department. The words moved through the building with force. Carol stood behind the desk, frozen. Lieutenant Morton's face went pale. An older sergeant near the evidence corridor removed his hat without seeming to realize he had done it. Whitmore stared at the document. Hales stared at Maya. Maya continued, "Until this department is deemed compliant with federal civil rights standards, all administrative command decisions, personnel actions, internal records access, and disciplinary authority route through my office." No one spoke. The silence was no longer confusion. It was recognition. Maya turned toward Hales. "Deputy Chief Martin Hales, you were notified of my appointment 72 hours ago." Hales's expression hardened. The hallway reacted at once. Whitmore looked at him. "You knew?" Hales said nothing. Maya did not let the moment pass. "You were instructed to prepare a formal command transition, secure all internal records, and ensure cooperation from senior staff." She looked down the hallway toward the door where Whitmore had first blocked her. "Instead, I arrived to find no command reception, no secured records protocol, missing evidence drives, hidden complaint files, and an officer physically obstructing my access to this office." Whitmore's face twisted. "You didn't identify yourself." Maya turned to him. "No, I did not." "You set me up." "No." Her answer was immediate. "I gave this department a chance to show me who it is when it thinks no one important is watching." The sentence struck harder than any accusation. Whitmore swallowed. Maya stepped closer. "And you did." He backed up half a step before catching himself. Hales finally spoke. "Commissioner William, with respect, this could have been handled more professionally." Maya looked at him. "You were given every opportunity to handle it professionally. I was coordinating internally. You were absent. There were scheduling issues." "No," Maya said. "There was a plan." The hallway went silent again. Hales's face went still. Maya lifted the appointment order. "You knew I was coming. You knew what authority I had. You allowed Officer Whitmore to block me, insult me, and attempt to remove me from the building." Hales kept his voice controlled. "That is not accurate." "Then explain why no one was assigned to receive me." Hales said nothing. "Explain why the command staff was not briefed." Still nothing. "Explain why Officer Whitmore was stationed outside the chief's office before I arrived." Whitmore looked at Hales. This time, the anger in his face was mixed with fear. Hales did not answer quickly enough. That was another mistake. Maya turned toward David. "Document Deputy Chief Hales's failure to comply with transition instructions." David wrote it down. Hales stepped forward. "I object to that characterization. You may submit a written response." "This is my department." Maya's eyes stayed on him. "No, Deputy Chief. That is precisely what this department must stop being." The words traveled down the hallway. Several officers looked away. Others looked directly at Maya for the first time. Not with comfort, not with trust yet, but with attention. That was enough. From the records corridor, Eli Brooks appeared with a federal evidence specialist beside him. "Commissioner William." The title sounded strange in his mouth, but he said it clearly. Maya turned. "Yes." The specialist held up a sealed evidence bag. "We found a storage card matching one of the missing body camera inventory numbers." David stepped forward. "Which case?" The specialist checked the label. "Walter Jennings stop. 2 years ago." Mr. Jennings, still near the lobby, looked up when he heard his name. Maya turned toward him. His hands tightened around his cap. Whitmore's face drained of color. Maya noticed immediately. So did Hales. "So the video was not missing," Maya said. The specialist shook his head. "It was removed from the official cabinet and hidden behind the wall panel." Maya looked at Whitmore. "Officer Whitmore, you were the arresting officer listed in that complaint." He did not answer. Maya turned to Hales. "And you dismissed it." Hales's voice was flat. "I reviewed the report available to me." "Convenient." David took the evidence bag from the specialist. "Do you want it played?" Maya looked toward Walter Jennings. The old man's face showed fear, hope, and something he seemed afraid to name. Not here, Maya thought. Not like this. He deserved more dignity than to have the worst moment of his life displayed as a hallway spectacle. "Secure it," she said. "We'll review it formally." Walter Jennings lowered his head. For a moment, Maya thought he might cry. Whitmore tried to regain ground. "This is all theater. Maya turned back to him. No, Officer Whitmore. Theater is what happened in that conference room this morning. When everyone pretended this department was healthy, she raised the appointment order again. This is command. No one answered. Maya looked across the hallway. Effective immediately. All access to archived complaints, evidence drives, personnel files, and internal disciplinary records is suspended unless approved by me or DOJ counsel. David wrote, Officer Brooks will remain assigned to evidence protection. Eli straightened. Yes, Commissioner. Carol Benson will provide a list of all civilian visitors who came in today and any pending complaints at the front desk. Carol nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. Lieutenant Morton will surrender all keys, access cards, and passcodes related to record storage. Morton looked at Hales. Maya's voice sharpened. Do not look at him. I gave the order. Morton removed his keyring and handed it to David. Maya faced Whitmore last. Officer Dale Whitmore, you are relieved from hallway duty, public contact, records access, and supervisory interaction pending formal review. He stared at her. You can't do that. Maya held his gaze. I just did. His breathing grew heavy. Hales spoke quickly. Commissioner, I strongly Maya turned to him. Humiliation is being shoved away from a door and called an animal. No one moved. Whitmore looked down first. That was the moment the department understood. Maya William had not come to ask permission. She had come to restore order. Not the order Fairmont had hidden behind for years. A different order, one built from truth, from evidence, from the simple idea that no badge gave a man the right to forget another person's humanity. Maya folded the appointment order and returned it to the envelope. Then she looked toward the chief's office. The door stood open now. Behind her, Ranger barked once from the records corridor. Maya did not turn around. She already understood. The old dog had found the first piece. The envelope had revealed the second. And somewhere between Dale Whitmore's panic and Martin Hales's silence, the rest of the truth was waiting to come out. The hallway remained quiet long after Maya William walked back into the chief's office. People were still processing what had happened. For years, authority inside Fairmont Police Department had followed familiar paths. Orders came from certain offices. Decisions came from certain people. Questions were discouraged. Complaints disappeared. Careers advanced or stalled depending on who was being protected. That system had survived because everyone believed it would continue. Now that belief was beginning to crack. Maya closed the office door behind her and sat at the desk. David Monroe entered moments later carrying 3 new folders. More personnel records, he said. Maya accepted them. Anything unusual? David gave a short laugh. At this point, unusual would be finding something normal. Maya opened the first folder. Officer promotions. The pattern appeared immediately. Several officers with strong evaluations had been denied advancement. Others with disciplinary concerns had moved up quickly. One name appeared repeatedly. Dale Whitmore. Commendations. Promotion. Special assignments. Review board recommendations. Maya studied the signatures. Martin Hales. Again. And again. And again. Every road leads back to him, David said. Not every road, Maya replied. Most of them. She turned another page. Then another. The same names continued appearing. The same small circle of people reviewing each other, approving each other, protecting each other. A closed system. Exactly the kind federal investigators worried about. A knock interrupted them. Come in. Carol Benson entered cautiously. She looked nervous. Commissioner William? Yes. There's something you should probably see. Maya stood. What is it? Officer Whitmore. David and Maya exchanged a glance. Where? The parking lot. 3 minutes later, they stepped outside. Several patrol vehicles sat near the rear section of the lot. Whitmore stood beside his truck. He wasn't alone. Lieutenant Morton was with him. The conversation ended the moment they saw Maya approaching. Morton immediately stepped away. Too quickly. Much too quickly. Whitmore folded his arms. What now? Maya looked at him. Interesting question. He stared back. You following me? No. Then why are you here? Because people keep telling me where to look. Whitmore's jaw tightened. Morton suddenly became interested in checking his phone. Maya noticed something else. A cardboard archive box sat in the bed of Whitmore's truck. Her eyes settled on it. Whitmore saw her looking. Immediately. That told her everything. What's in the box? Personal property. Open it. No. The answer came too fast. David stepped forward. Officer Whitmore, under current administrative review authority. It's my property. Maya continued watching him. Most guilty people prepared explanations. Whitmore had prepared resistance. That was different. Who put it there? Maya asked. Whitmore didn't answer. Was it already in your truck when you arrived? Still nothing. Morton looked increasingly uncomfortable. Maya turned toward him. Lieutenant? Morton swallowed. I don't know anything about the box. You seem eager to say that. His face reddened. Whitmore glared at him. A small glance. A warning. Maya caught it. So did David. The first crack had appeared. Not in evidence. In loyalty. For years, men like Whitmore survived because everyone around them stayed united. Now fear was pulling them apart. Officer Whitmore, Maya said calmly. Step away from the vehicle. No, that's not a request. Whitmore laughed bitterly. You enjoy this. No. You think humiliating people makes you powerful. Maya held his gaze. That's your method, not mine. For a moment, he looked ready to explode. Then something unexpected happened. A voice called from across the parking lot. Commissioner William. Everyone turned. Walter Jennings stood near the sidewalk. The elderly veteran held a small paper bag in one hand. Maya walked toward him. Mr. Jennings. I didn't mean to interrupt. You aren't interrupting. The old man looked nervous. I brought something. He handed her the bag. Inside was a worn notebook. Maya carefully opened it. Traffic stops. Dates. Officer names. Location. Dozens of entries. What is this? Walter looked toward the police building. My wife told me to write things down. Maya looked up. Why? Because nobody listened. The answer settled heavily between them. Walter pointed at one page. That's the stop I filed the complaint about. Maya found it. 2 years earlier. Officer Whitmore. Vehicle search. Property handled. Witness present. Who's the witness? Maya asked. Walter hesitated. My grandson. Maya looked at him. Would he be willing to speak with investigators? Walter nodded slowly. If it helps. It might. The old veteran glanced toward Whitmore. Then back to Maya. He wasn't the only one. What do you mean? Walter took a breath. There were others. Others who complained? Yes. Did you know them? Some. Where? Church. That got Maya's attention. Small towns kept memories in churches. People trusted each other there. Stories survived there. Names survived there. Can you make a list? Walter nodded. I think so. Thank you. The old man smiled faintly. Then he said something that stayed with Maya. My wife always said truth moves slow. Maya waited. Walter looked toward the department building. But eventually it catches up. After he left, Maya stood quietly for a moment. David broke the silence. That notebook could be important. Yes, especially if the names match complaints. Maya nodded. Very often corruption depended on isolation. People believed they were alone. One complaint disappeared. Then another. Then another. Nobody realized the same thing had happened to dozens of others. Until someone connected the stories. They returned inside. The atmosphere had changed again. Officers watched them more openly now. News traveled fast inside police departments. By the time Maya reached her office, everyone knew about the missing drives. Everyone knew about the hidden records. Everyone knew about the federal oversight order. And now whispers were beginning. The phone rang before she reached her desk. David answered. His expression changed. What? He listened, then listened longer. Finally, he hung up. Problem. What happened? The evidence corridor camera. Maya looked up. What about it? Someone tried accessing the security system. When? 10 minutes ago. Who? David shook his head. The attempt failed. Maya immediately understood. Someone was getting nervous. Very nervous. Can we trace it? It is checking now. Maya sat slowly. The room suddenly felt smaller. Not because of fear. Because the investigation had entered a new stage. Someone was no longer reacting. Someone was actively trying to interfere. David seemed to reach the same conclusion. They know we're getting closer. Yes. Think it's Whitmore? No. David frowned. Why not? Whitmore gets angry. She pointed toward the files. This requires planning. Hales? Maybe. The answer was honest. She didn't know yet. But she knew one thing. The missing drives. The hidden evidence. The protected complaints. The altered reviews. The attempted system access. All of it pointed toward a person who understood procedure. A person who knew where records were stored. A person who expected never to be questioned. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Eli Brooks entered. His expression was serious. "Commissioner? What is it?" "I found something." He handed her a personnel file. Maya opened it. The name on the cover immediately caught her attention. Sergeant Paul Reeves, Ranger's former handler. The officer who had reported evidence concerns before being pushed into retirement. Maya looked up. "Where did you get this?" "Records archive." "What did you find?" Eli pointed to a disciplinary review near the back. Maya read it carefully, then read it again. Her eyes narrowed. "What is it?" David asked. Maya slowly closed the file. A single sentence stood out among dozens of pages. Sergeant Reeves claims evidence removal orders originated above command level. David stared. "Above command level?" Maya nodded. That phrase should not have existed. Not in a local police department. Not unless Reeves had been pointing towards someone beyond Whitmore. Beyond Morton. Possibly beyond Hales. For the first time all day, Maya felt something unexpected. Not certainty. Concern. Because if Paul Reeves had been telling the truth, then the corruption inside Fairmont might reach farther than anyone had imagined. And somewhere inside that larger picture, the next piece of the truth was waiting. The sentence stayed with Maya long after Eli Brooks left her office. Sergeant Reeves claims evidence removal orders originated above command level. She read it 3 more times. Then she placed the file on her desk and looked at David Monroe. "What do you think?" David leaned back in his chair. "I think Reeves was trying to tell somebody something." "You think he knew who was responsible?" "Maybe." Maya considered that. The phrase bothered her because it didn't fit the pattern they had been building all day. Until now, every road led toward the same people. Whitmore, Morton, Hales. The chain was clear, simple, understandable, but Reeves had written something different. Above command level. That suggested influence extending beyond normal departmental authority. The possibility unsettled her, not because it made the investigation impossible, because it made it larger. And larger investigations created more opportunities for evidence to disappear. David stood. "We need to locate Reeves." Maya nodded. "Where is he?" "Last known address is still in Fairmont." "Let's go." 20 minutes later they were driving through the older section of town. The neighborhood was quiet. Small houses sat close together. Several veterans' flags hung from front porches. Children rode bicycles near the corner. People looked up as the government vehicle passed. Fairmont was not a wealthy town, but it was a proud one. That mattered. Communities like this survived on trust. When institutions betrayed that trust, the damage spread much farther than paperwork. They found Sergeant Paul Reeves sitting on his front porch. The former K-9 handler looked older than his personnel photograph. His hair had turned almost completely gray. One knee was supported by a brace. A coffee mug rested beside him. When he saw Maya and David approaching, he immediately recognized why they were there. "You found the room." It wasn't a question. Maya stopped near the porch steps. "Yes." Reeves nodded slowly. "And Ranger?" "He found it." A faint smile crossed the man's face. "Sounds like him." Maya sat in the empty chair across from him. "Officer Brooks gave me your file." Reeves laughed softly. "Guess Eli finally stopped being afraid." "He's trying." "Good." The smile disappeared. "What do you want to know?" Maya pulled a notebook from her bag. "Everything." For the next hour, Reeves talked. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. Just honestly. The best witnesses often did. Years earlier, he had begun noticing inconsistencies in evidence handling. Body camera footage listed in reports but missing from archives. Complaint files that changed locations. Case numbers appearing twice. Some evidence disappeared completely. Others reappeared months later. Always when someone important needed protection. "Who did you report it to?" Maya asked. "Hales." "What happened?" Reeves smiled without humor. "Same thing that happened to Brooks." Maya already knew the answer. Transfer denials. Poor evaluations. Isolation. Career damage. The standard punishment for honesty. "What about Whitmore?" The former sergeant took a sip of coffee. "Whitmore wasn't smart enough to build the system." Maya immediately noticed the wording. Build, not use. Build. He benefited from it. Yes, but he didn't create it. No. David looked up from his notes. Who did? Reeves was silent for several seconds. Then he shook his head. "I never proved it." "Tell us anyway." The former sergeant leaned forward. "Hales managed the department." "We know that." He controlled promotions. We know that too. But every time evidence disappeared, every time complaints vanished, every time investigations got buried, he stopped. Someone outside the department benefited. Maya felt the conversation tightening. Who? Developers, contractors, political donors, people with influence. David exchanged a glance with Maya. The picture was becoming clearer. Not larger, just deeper. Corruption rarely survived alone. It attached itself to money, to favors, to relationships, to people who needed certain truths buried. Did you keep records? Maya asked. Reeves nodded. A few. Where? Not here. Maya waited. The former sergeant stood slowly and walked inside. Several minutes later he returned carrying a small lockbox. He placed it on the porch table. I made copies. David looked surprised. Copies of what? Reports. Emails. Internal memos. Anything I thought might disappear. Maya opened the box carefully. Inside were flash drives, printed emails, handwritten notes, personnel documents. Years of quiet preparation. Reeves looked at her. I figured somebody would come eventually. You expected federal investigators? No. His eyes softened slightly. I expected somebody who still cared. The words stayed with Maya because she understood them. Her father had waited years for someone to care. Many people inside those complaint files had waited too. Some were still waiting. Some never got the chance. David carefully collected the contents. This could be significant. It better be, Reeves said. I paid for it. Maya looked at him. What do you mean? The former sergeant tapped his knee brace. My retirement. My reputation. Most of my friends. Nobody spoke. There was nothing useful to say. Before they left, Reeves looked toward the driveway. How's Ranger? The question surprised Maya. He's doing well. Still stubborn? Yes. That made Reeves smile. Good. Then his expression grew serious. Watch Hales. We are. No. Reeves shook his head. You're watching Whitmore. Maya didn't argue. The former sergeant continued. Whitmore gets angry when he's scared. Hales gets careful. And careful men are harder to catch. The drive back to the department was quiet. Both Maya and David spent most of it thinking. By the time they arrived, evening had settled over Fairmont. Several patrol units were still active. Lights remained on throughout the building. The investigation had changed the department's rhythm. People stayed later. Conversations stopped when others approached. Doors closed more often. Fear was spreading, which meant mistakes were coming. The moment Maya entered the building, Eli Brooks hurried toward her. His face was pale. What happened? Eli looked around before answering. Somebody got into the records corridor. David stopped walking. When? About 30 minutes ago. Maya's expression hardened. Who? We don't know. The federal technicians stepped away to unload equipment. When they came back, he hesitated. What? One box was moved. The hallway suddenly felt colder. Was anything taken? We're not sure. David immediately pulled out his phone. Seal the corridor. Already done. Good. Maya headed toward the records area without another word. Officers moved out of her way. Nobody wanted to be standing in the wrong place right now. When she reached the corridor, 2 federal specialists were already reviewing inventory. One pointed toward a stack of boxes. That one. Maya examined it. The lid sat slightly crooked, different from the photos taken earlier. Contents? Still being checked. The specialist opened a tablet. We know somebody handled it. How? Dust pattern. Maya nodded. Simple. Obvious. Reliable. Someone had entered. Someone had searched. Someone was worried about what investigators might find. David finished speaking with another technician. Security logs? Being reviewed. Any suspects? The technician hesitated, then answered carefully. One access attempt came from an administrative terminal. Maya immediately understood. Administrative access. Not patrol. Not dispatch. Administration. Her eyes moved down the hallway, toward the command offices, toward Martin Hales, toward everything they had uncovered during the day. The hidden complaints. The missing drives. The buried evidence. The protected officers. The retired whistleblower. The copied records. The old dog who refused to forget. Maya looked at David. Tomorrow changes everything. David nodded. I know, because both of them understood the same thing. The investigation was no longer searching for corruption. It had already found it. Now it was trying to discover how far it reached. And somewhere inside the files recovered from Paul Reeves's lockbox, the answer was waiting. The next morning began before sunrise. Maya William was already in her office when David Monroe arrived carrying a cardboard evidence box recovered from Paul Reeves's lockbox. Neither of them had slept much. The attempted access to the records corridor had changed everything. Someone inside the department was no longer simply hiding the past. Someone was actively trying to protect it. David placed the box on Maya's desk. The forensic team finished the preliminary review. Anything useful? David opened a folder. A lot. Maya sat forward. For the next hour, they reviewed documents Reeves had collected over several years. Internal emails, personnel recommandations, complaint summaries, disciplinary reviews, budget approvals. Most appeared ordinary, until patterns began emerging. The same names appeared repeatedly. Martin Hales, Greg Morton, several city contractors, 2 local development companies, a private towing contractor, a security vendor. Each connection alone meant little. Together they formed something different. A network. David slid another document across the desk. This one caught my attention. Maya read it. The email was several years old. The sender was Martin Hales. The recipient was a city contractor. One sentence stood out. Ensure this matter remains administrative rather than public. Maya read it twice. Then a third time. What was the matter? David handed her another page. The answer sat in a complaint file. A black business owner had reported repeated traffic stops near a construction zone connected to the contractor. The complaint disappeared 3 days later. Maya looked up. Follow the money. David nodded. That's what I was thinking. Corruption always pretended to be about power. Most of the time it was really about money. Power simply protected it. A knock interrupted them. Eli Brooks entered. He looked exhausted. Morning. You were here late, Maya said. So were you. He wasn't wrong. Eli handed over another file. We found something in the administrative archives. Maya opened it. A spreadsheet. Names. Case numbers. Disposition code. At first glance it looked harmless. Then she noticed a separate column. Priority status. Several complaints were marked with the same notation. Fee. What does that mean? Maya asked. Eli shook his head. No idea. David examined the list. Who approved the coding system? Eli pointed to the signature line. Martin Hales. Maya leaned back. Another connection. Another thread leading to the same person. The phone rang. David answered. After a brief conversation, he covered the receiver. The mayor is here. Maya looked at the clock. 8:15. That was fast. He says it's urgent. Send him in. Mayor Robert Kessler entered moments later. He looked older than he had the previous day. More tired. Less confident. He closed the door behind him. We need to talk. Maya gestured toward a chair. The mayor remained standing. That storage room discovery is all over town. I expected it would be. You have reporters calling City Hall. Good. The mayor frowned. Good? Transparency tends to attract attention. Kessler rubbed his forehead. You're making enemies. No. Maya replied calmly. The evidence is doing that. The mayor sighed. For a moment he seemed less like a politician and more like a man caught in a situation he could no longer control. You think Hales is involved? It wasn't a question. Maya answered carefully. I think evidence keeps leading toward him. The mayor looked away. That reaction lasted less than a second. But Maya saw it. David saw it too. Mayor, Maya said quietly, what aren't you telling me? The room became very still. Kessler took a long breath. Then he sat down. Martin Hales helped get me elected. Nobody spoke. The admission carried weight. The mayor continued. Years ago, he knew everyone. He organized support. He introduced donors. David exchanged a glance with Maya. There it was. Politics. Exactly what Reeves had hinted at. Did he ask for favors? Maya asked. Not directly. But? Kessler hesitated. Whenever problems surfaced, Martin always had an explanation. What kind of problems? Complaints. Disciplinary issues. Budget questions. Personnel dispute. The mayor looked ashamed. I trusted him. Maya believed him. That was the dangerous thing about people like Hales. They rarely appeared corrupt. They appeared reliable. Until the day everything collapsed. Did you ever question him? Yes. What happened? He always had paperwork. The answer didn't surprise her. Paperwork was protection, especially when the people reviewing it wanted reassurance instead of truth. A second knock interrupted them. David opened the door. A federal forensic analyst stood outside. Commissioner. What is it? We recovered data from one of the hidden storage cards. Everyone in the room stood. What did you find? Maya asked. The analyst handed her a report. The recovered files included internal communications. Deleted communications. One recovered message immediately caught her attention. The sender was Martin Hales. The recipient was Dale Whitmore. The message was brief. Move the footage before review. Maya read it again, then handed it to David. His expression darkened instantly. That's it. The analyst nodded. There are more. How many? Still processing. The room fell silent. For the first time since arriving in Fairmont, Maya was holding direct evidence connecting Hales to removed footage. Not suspicion, not patterns, not assumptions. Evidence. Mayor Kessler looked stunned. Dear God. Nobody answered, because there was nothing left to say. The truth was finally becoming visible. The analyst continued. There's something else. Maya looked up. What? We found evidence of financial transfers. David immediately focused. From who? Several city contractors. To an account connected to a consulting firm. Whose firm? The analyst checked his notes, then looked up. Martin Hales Consulting Group. The room went silent again. This time, even the mayor seemed unable to speak. Maya slowly closed the report. Years of missing complaints. Years of altered evidence. Years of protected officers. Years of buried investigations. And now money. The final piece had appeared. Whitmore had enforced the system. Morton had helped maintain it. But Martin Hales had been benefiting from it. David broke the silence. We need to secure his office. Immediately, Maya said. The mayor looked pale. You think he knows? Yes. Then what happens now? Maya stood. Her voice remained calm. The same thing that happens every time someone builds power on lies. The mayor looked at her. And what is that? Maya picked up the report. Eventually the lies stopped protecting them. As if summoned by the conversation, a loud voice suddenly echoed from the hallway. Everyone recognized it immediately. Dale Whitmore. Angry. Shouting. Out of control. David moved toward the door. What now? Maya already knew. Pressure was breaking the department apart. And men like Whitmore always cracked first. But as she looked down at the recovered messages, she realized something more important. Dale Whitmore was no longer the biggest problem. He never had been. The real betrayal belonged to Martin Hales. Dale Whitmore's shouting grew louder before Maya reached the hallway. You think I'm going to take the fall for this? His voice carried through the administration wing and stopped every conversation in the building. Maya stepped out of her office with David Monroe beside her. Mayor Kessler followed a few steps behind, still pale from what he had just learned. Whitmore stood near the records corridor, pointing a finger at Deputy Chief Martin Hales. Hales did not answer him. That only made Whitmore angrier. I did what I was told, Whitmore snapped. Don't stand there acting like you don't know. The hallway went completely still. Maya stopped walking. So did David. So did everyone else. Hales's face remained controlled, but his eyes changed. He knew Whitmore had crossed a line. Dale, Hales said quietly. You need to calm down. Whitmore laughed. It was a bitter, reckless sound. Oh, now I need to calm down? Yesterday I was useful. This morning I was useful. Now suddenly I'm a problem? Hales took one step toward him. Not here. Maya spoke from across the hall. No. Here is perfect. Whitmore turned. His face was red. His eyes were tired. The anger in him had changed into fear, and fear made him careless. Maya looked at Hales. Deputy Chief, the mayor is here. DOJ counsel is here. Federal evidence staff are present. Since Officer Whitmore seems ready to speak openly, we will move this discussion into the command room. Hales adjusted his jacket. I see no reason for a public confrontation. This is not public, Maya said. This is command review. Whitmore pointed at Hales again. Ask him about the footage. Hales's jaw tightened. Maya held up the recovered forensic report. We already did. For the first time, Hales looked genuinely unsettled. Maya did not let him recover. Everyone to the command room. Now. No one argued. The command room filled quickly. Maya sat at the head of the table. Not because she wanted the symbolism, but because command needed to be clear. David sat to her right with the recovered files. Mayor Kessler sat to her left. Hales sat across from her. Whitmore stood near the wall until Maya ordered him to sit. Eli Brooks entered last, carrying an evidence log. Ranger waited outside the glass wall, seated beside the records corridor, as if he still had a duty post to protect. Maya looked around the room. This emergency command meeting is now in session. The purpose is to address evidence tampering, hidden civilian complaints, possible retaliation against officers, and misuse of departmental authority. Hales folded his hands. I object to the wording. Noted. You are assuming misconduct before a complete review. Maya opened the folder in front of her. No, I am presenting documented findings. David distributed copies of the first report. Nobody touched them at first. Maya began with the facts. Yesterday, a locked storage room was opened under administrative review. Inside that room, federal evidence staff located civilian complaints that had been removed from normal access. She turned a page. Several complaints were connected to Officer Dale Whitmore. Whitmore looked down. Maya continued. 21 body camera evidence drives were missing from the official cabinet. A hidden wall panel contained storage cards, handwritten notes, and records tied to several of those missing cases. Mayor Kessler rubbed both hands over his face. Hales stayed motionless. Maya looked at him. Recovered digital data includes a deleted message from Deputy Chief Martin Hales to Officer Dale Whitmore stating, "Move the footage before review." The room tightened. Eli stared at the table. Whitmore looked at Hales. Hales did not look at anyone. Maya placed the printed message in the center of the table. Deputy Chief Hales, do you deny sending this message? Hales looked at the page. I don't recall the context. That was not the question. I would need to review the full communication history. You may do that through counsel. For this administrative meeting, I am asking whether you deny sending the message. Hales paused, then said, I do not deny that it appears to be from my account. Whitmore laughed under his breath. Hales turned toward him. Something funny? Whitmore leaned back. Yeah. You finally running out of pretty words. Maya let the exchange happen for a moment. Guilty alliances often broke better without interruption. Hales faced Maya again. Commissioner William, departmental review procedures often require footage to be moved for preservation. David slid another document forward. Then you should have no issue explaining why the footage was removed from the official inventory, hidden in an unlogged wall cavity, and listed as unavailable during civilian complaint review. Hales had no immediate answer. Maya turned to Eli. Officer Brooks, please summarize your prior reports concerning missing records. Eli sat straighter. His voice was steady, though his hands were not. Last year, I noticed complaint files disappearing after citizens came in to ask for updates. I reported concerns to Deputy Chief Hales twice. After that, my transfer request was denied, my patrol assignment changed, and my evaluation was downgraded. Hales shook his head. That is his interpretation. Eli looked at him. No, sir. That is what happened. The words were simple. They had weight because he finally said them without apology. Maya nodded. Thank you, Officer Brooks. She then turned to the mayor. Mayor Kessler, were you aware complaints were being removed from standard review? No. Were you aware evidence drives were missing? No. Were you aware Deputy Chief Hales operated a consulting firm receiving transfers from city contractors? The mayor closed his eyes briefly. No. Hales spoke sharply. That has nothing to do with police operations. David opened another file. It may. Several contractors connected to those transfers appear in complaints later dismissed or buried under your authority. Hales's voice hardened. Appear is not proof. No, Maya said. But recovered records, financial transfers, missing footage, and your own messages are enough to justify immediate action. Whitmore suddenly slammed his hand on the table. You hear that, Martin? Immediate action. That means she's coming for both of us. Maya looked at him. Officer Whitmore, you will speak when addressed. He ignored her. You told me those stops were fine. You told me to keep pressure on certain areas. You told me complaints didn't matter if they didn't have video. Hales stood. Stop talking. Whitmore stood too. No, I'm done shutting up for you. David rose immediately. Sit down, Officer Whitmore. Whitmore pointed at Hales. He gave the orders. Maya's eyes stayed on Whitmore. What orders? The room froze. Whitmore realized what he had done, but the words were already out. Maya repeated the question. What orders? Hales spoke first. He is under stress and making reckless statements. Whitmore turned on him. Reckless? You want reckless? Tell them about Pine Street. Tell them about the Jennings stop. Tell them why you told me to pull that old man over. Mayor Kessler looked up. Walter Jennings? Whitmore's breathing was uneven now. He lived near the church property. Same road the development company wanted cleared for access. Hales said the neighbors were becoming a problem. Said a few tickets and searches would remind them the city had options. The mayor looked stunned. Hales's expression went cold. That is a lie. Whitmore leaned toward him. You think I didn't keep texts? That sentence changed the room. Hales went still. Maya watched his face. There it was. Fear. Not irritation. Not calculation. Fear. David spoke carefully. Officer Whitmore, are you stating that you possess communications from Deputy Chief Hales directing selective enforcement? Whitmore looked at Maya, then at Hales, then back at Maya. For the first time, he understood that Hales might let him take the blame for everything. Yes, Whitmore said. Hales exploded. You fool. The words struck the room like a confession. Maya did not move. She did not need to. David wrote it down. Mayor Kessler pushed back from the table. Martin, what have you done? Hales regained control quickly, but not fully. I have done what was necessary to keep this department functional. Maya leaned forward. By hiding complaints? To protect officers from false accusations. By moving footage? To prevent misinterpretation. By targeting citizens near development properties? Hales stopped. Maya's voice did not rise. That is the part you should answer carefully. Hales looked around the room. For the first time, there was no friendly face waiting for him. Morton was absent. Whitmore was turning. The mayor was horrified. Eli was no longer silent. David had the documents. Maya had the authority. Hales sat slowly. I want counsel. You may have counsel, Maya said, after this administrative action is recorded. She picked up the prepared order from the folder. Deputy Chief Martin Hales, effective immediately. You are suspended from all command duties pending federal and administrative investigation. You will surrender your badge, department-issued weapon, access cards, keys, and electronic devices assigned by the city. Hales stared at her. You don't know what you're doing. I know exactly what I'm doing. You're tearing open things this town won't survive. No, Maya said. This town has been surviving them for years. The mayor lowered his head. Eli looked at Maya as if hearing something he had needed to hear for a long time. Whitmore sat back down, suddenly aware that his own turn was coming. Hales removed his badge slowly and placed it on the table. The sound was small. The meaning was not. Maya looked at David. Secure Deputy Chief Hales's office. David nodded and stepped out. Maya turned to Whitmore. You will remain available for a formal recorded interview. Whitmore's voice was lower now. If I cooperate? Maya looked at him for a long second. Cooperation is not absolution. He swallowed. She stood. This meeting is adjourned pending evidence, recovery, and formal statements. No one moved at first. Then Hales rose from his chair. At the door, he stopped and looked back at Maya. You think this ends with me? Maya met his stare. No. I think it starts with you. Hales left the room under escort. Through the glass, Ranger lifted his head as the suspended deputy chief passed. The old dog did not bark. He only watched. Maya gathered the documents from the table. The meeting had done what it needed to do. It had separated fear from loyalty. It had forced the hidden man into the open. It had turned whispers into statements. But it had also confirmed something larger. Fairmont's corruption was not a few bad tempers in uniform. It was organized. It was protected. And now that protection had begun to collapse. The suspension of Martin Hales spread through Fairmont before noon. By lunchtime, people were talking about it in diners, church parking lots, grocery store checkout lines, and barbershops. For years, Hales had been one of the most respected men in town. Many people still refused to believe the allegations. Others had been waiting years for someone to finally ask questions. Maya Williams spent most of the morning reviewing statements. The department had changed overnight. Officers who once avoided eye contact were suddenly requesting meetings. Civilian complaints that had remained buried for years were beginning to resurface. People who had stayed silent no longer believed silence was protecting anyone. David Monroe entered her office carrying another stack of files. You were right. Maya looked up. About what? Once Hales lost power, people started talking. How many? 7 officers requested confidential interviews. Maya nodded. That's only the beginning. David placed the files on her desk. The first 3 are already waiting. Sent them in. The first officer was a patrol sergeant named Kevin Lawson. 56 years old, 28 years with the department, 3 years away from retirement. He sat carefully and folded his hands. Maya could immediately see he was uncomfortable, not because he was afraid of her, because he was ashamed of himself. "Sergeant Lawson," Maya said, "you requested this meeting." "Yes, ma'am. What would you like to tell me?" The man stared at the floor for several seconds. Finally, he spoke. "I should have said something years ago." Maya remained silent. People often continued speaking when given room. "I kept telling myself it wasn't my business." He laughed bitterly. "That's the lie we tell ourselves when we don't want trouble." "What wasn't your business?" "Complaints. Missing reports. Special treatment." He swallowed. "Whitmore." Maya opened her notebook. "What about him? He always got away with things." "Because of Hales?" Lawson nodded. "If Dale got caught, Martin fixed it." "How?" "Missing paperwork. Lost recordings. Internal reviews. The same pattern again. Different witness. Same story." Maya took notes. "Did you ever personally see evidence removed?" "No." "Did you see orders?" "No." "Then why are you here?" Lawson finally looked at her. "Because I saw enough to know what was happening." His voice weakened. "And because I'm tired of pretending I didn't." When the interview ended, Maya thanked him. The sergeant paused at the door. "Commissioner?" "Yes?" "My grandson is black." Maya looked at him. Lawson nodded toward the hallway. "I started thinking about how I'd feel if somebody treated him the way some people got treated around here." For a moment, neither spoke. Then he left. The second interview was even more significant. Officer Rebecca Torres had worked dispatch before transferring to records. She brought a notebook. Not copies, not reports. A notebook, handwritten, 3 years of observations. Dates, names, missing files, unusual requests, unauthorized access. Every page contained details. Maya spent nearly an hour reviewing it. "Why keep this?" she asked. Rebecca looked embarrassed. "My father used to tell me that memory fails but paper doesn't." Maya smiled slightly. "That's good advice. Honestly, I thought nobody would ever care." The sentence sounded familiar. "Tu familiar." It reminded Maya of Walter Jennings. It reminded her of Paul Reeves. It reminded her of dozens of people who had stopped expecting justice because disappointment felt safer than hope. By early afternoon, Maya had collected statements from 5 officers. Every story pointed in the same direction. Not all of them liked each other. Not all worked together. Some barely knew one another. Yet their stories matched. That was important. Truth often arrived from different directions but landed in the same place. Near 2 o'clock, Eli Brooks knocked on her office door. "Commissioner?" "Come in." He entered carrying another file. "You asked me to review old personnel complaints. Did you find something?" "Yes." He handed her a document. The name immediately caught her attention. Carol Benson, the receptionist. Maya looked up. "Carol?" Eli nodded. "She filed an internal complaint 4 years ago." Maya opened the report. The complaint alleged intimidation by Officer Whitmore after a civilian attempted to file a misconduct report. The case had been dismissed. Reviewing supervisor, Martin Hales. Maya closed the folder. "Bring Carol in." 10 minutes later, Carol sat across from Maya. She looked terrified. Not nervous, terrified. "Carol," Maya said gently, "I found your complaint." The receptionist immediately froze. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." Carol lowered her eyes. For a moment, Maya thought she might refuse to speak. Then tears appeared. Not dramatic tears. The quiet kind. The kind that came from carrying something too long. "I was told it was handled." "What happened?" Carol wiped her eyes. "A woman came into the station. Black woman. She wanted to report excessive force." Maya listened carefully. Whitmore told her she was wasting everyone's time. "What did you do?" "I gave her the forms." "And then?" Carol hesitated. "After she left, Whitmore screamed at me. The memory clearly still hurt. He said people like her were the reason officers stopped helping anyone." Maya remained silent. Carol continued. "I filed a complaint." "What happened after that?" "Nothing." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Actually, not nothing." She looked down. "I lost my promotion." Maya nodded slowly. "Another retaliation case. Another buried report. Another person taught to stay quiet. Why didn't you tell anyone?" Carol looked directly at her. "Because nobody was listening." The answer echoed through Maya's thoughts long after Carol left. Nobody was listening. That was the true damage corruption caused. Not missing files. Not hidden footage. Not false reports. Those were symptoms. The real damage was convincing decent people that speaking up was useless. Late that afternoon, David entered carrying new forensic findings. His expression was serious. What happened? We recovered additional messages. Maya immediately stood. From Hales? Yes. David handed over several printed pages. Maya scanned them quickly. Her eyes stopped on one exchange. Hales. Whitmore, 3 years earlier. Complaint regarding use of force. One line stood out. Keep the witness uncertain, and the complaint dies by itself. Maya read it twice, then handed it back. That's not procedure. No. It's strategy. David nodded. Exactly. The message wasn't about policing. It was about discouraging accountability, making citizens give up, making witnesses doubt themselves, making truth harder to prove. Maya looked through the office window. The department hallway was visible from her desk. Officers moved through it differently now. Less certainty, less arrogance, more caution. The building was changing. Not completely. Not yet. But enough. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Walter Jennings stood outside the open office door. Maya immediately smiled. Mr. Jennings. The elderly veteran removed his cap. Hope I'm not bothering you. You aren't. He stepped inside. I talked to some folks from church. Maya listened. Several remembered those traffic stops. Some kept records. Some still have letters. David and Maya exchanged a glance. More witnesses. More evidence. The truth was growing faster than anyone had expected. Walter smiled faintly. My wife would have liked this. Maya remembered the notebook he had brought. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. Walter looked around the office. People are starting to believe somebody cares. The word settled over the room. Maya thought about her father, about Paul Reeves, about Carol Benson, about Eli Brooks, about every person who had been told to stay quiet, every person who had nearly given up, every person who had waited. Good, Maya said softly. Walter nodded. Then he smiled. For the first time in a long while, Fairmont feels different. After he left, Maya remained standing by the window. David looked at her. What are you thinking? Maya watched officers moving through the hallway. The investigation started with evidence. David nodded. And now? It's becoming about people. Outside the office, Ranger lay near the records corridor, resting but alert. Still watching, still waiting. The old dog had uncovered hidden evidence. Now the people of Fairmont were uncovering something just as important. Their voices, and every new witness made it harder for the truth to be buried again. 3 months later, the front doors of the Fairmont Police Department opened at 8 o'clock sharp. No one had to knock. No one had to wait outside because they looked unfamiliar. No one had to search for complaint forms that were no longer missing from the counter. A small rack stood beside the front desk now. It held forms in English and Spanish, printed clearly, with instructions attached. A sign above it read, "Every complaint will be received. Every person will be treated with dignity." Carol Benson placed a fresh stack of papers into the rack and stepped back to make sure they were straight. She was no longer afraid to be seen doing her job. That alone told Maya William how much had changed. Maya stood near the entrance, watching the morning begin. An elderly woman came in to ask about a noise complaint. A young father arrived to retrieve a police report after a fender bender. 2 teenagers walked in with their mother to ask about a community service program. Nobody raised a voice. Nobody was mocked. Nobody was treated like an inconvenience. It was not perfect. Maya did not believe in perfect institutions. She believed in accountable ones. Fairmont Police Department still carried scars. Some officers had resigned. Some had been terminated. Others were under federal review. Martin Hales had been indicted on corruption-related charges after investigators traced contractor payments through his consulting firm. Lieutenant Morton had taken a plea agreement and agreed to testify. Dale Whitmore's statement had helped confirm what many people already knew. He had not acted alone, but he had acted willingly. That distinction mattered. The old system had not collapsed in a single day, even if it had looked that way when Maya signed Whitmore's termination order. It had taken weeks of interviews, evidence reviews, reopened complaints, and painful public meetings. People came forward slowly at first, then in groups: church members, veterans, parents, small business owners, former officers. People who had once been too tired to keep fighting arrived with folders, notebooks, receipts, letters, and memories. Maya listened to them all. Not every complaint led to discipline. Not every story could be proven, but every person was heard. For some, that was the first justice they had ever received from that building. Walter Jennings came every Thursday morning now. He said he was only bringing coffee for the staff, but everyone knew better. He came because the building no longer made him feel small. That morning, he entered carrying a white bakery box and wearing his veteran's cap. "Morning, Commissioner," he said. "Good morning, Mr. Jennings." Brought peach turnovers. Carol smiled from the desk. "You're spoiling us." Walter grinned. "My wife used to say food is how a town apologizes when words take too long." Maya looked at him. "That sounds like her." She was usually right. He set the box on the counter, then turned toward the hallway. His eyes paused on the new wall display near the records corridor. It had been Maya's idea, though she refused to take credit for it. The display was simple. No heroic portraits, no oversized badges, just a framed statement of public service, a list of citizen rights during police encounters, and a small plaque honoring those whose complaints had helped expose misconduct. Walter stood before it for a long moment. Then he nodded once. That nod carried more weight than applause. Near the records corridor, Ranger lifted his head. The old German shepherd now had a thick blue cushion beside the Internal Accountability Office. Eli Brooks had adopted him officially, though everyone in the building understood Ranger had adopted the department first. Eli stepped out of the office carrying a tablet. "Commissioner, the Jennings review packet is ready for signature." Walter turned quickly. "My case?" "Yes, sir," Eli said. Maya walked over. The review had taken weeks. The hidden body camera footage confirmed what Walter had said from the beginning. He had stopped at the sign. He had been calm. He had been threatened when he questioned the ticket. His complaint had been dismissed after the footage was removed. Maya handed him the official letter. "Mr. Jennings, your citation has been vacated. Your complaint has been sustained. The city will issue a formal apology and reimbursement." Walter stared at the paper. His hand trembled. For a moment, he did not speak. Then he said, "My wife told me to keep writing things down." Maya nodded. She was right. Walter wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "I wish she could see this." Maya's voice softened. Maybe part of her did. He held the letter to his chest. No one interrupted him. Some moments deserved room. Later that afternoon, the city held a public gathering outside the department. It was not a celebration. Maya had refused that word. "You don't celebrate after people have suffered," she told the mayor. "You acknowledge. You repair. Then you serve better." So the city called it a public recommitment. The crowd was larger than anyone expected. Older residents brought folding chairs. Veterans stood together near the sidewalk. Church members arrived in small groups. Reporters came from Atlanta. Families who had once avoided the station now stood in front of it. Mayor Kessler spoke first. He did not defend himself. That mattered. He admitted the city had failed to ask hard questions. He admitted clean paperwork had been accepted over painful truth. He promised cooperation with federal oversight, even when it became uncomfortable. Some people clapped. Some did not. Maya understood both reactions. Trust did not return because a microphone was used. Then Eli Brooks stepped forward. He had been appointed acting head of the new Internal Accountability Unit. The title made him uneasy, but responsibility often did. "My grandfather used to tell me the badge belongs to the public," Eli said. "We only borrow it." For too long, people in this department forgot that. Some of us saw things and stayed quiet. I was one of them. I won't pretend otherwise. The crowd grew still. Eli swallowed but continued. "I can't undo what happened, but I can promise this. Silence will no longer be the price of working here." That time, the applause was stronger. When Maya's turn came, she did not carry a long speech. She brought one sheet of paper and her father's fountain pen. She stood before the people of Fairmont and looked at the front door of the building. The same building where Dale Whitmore had shoved her away and called her less than human. That moment felt both close and distant now. 3 months ago, Maya began, "I walked through these doors as a stranger." She paused. Some people in this department believed dignity was something they could give or withhold. They believed power made them untouchable. They believed certain citizens would eventually get tired, go home, and stop asking for justice. Walter Jennings stood near the front. Carol Benson stood beside the entrance. Eli stood near Ranger. Maya continued, They were wrong. No one moved. Justice is not revenge. Revenge looks backward and asks who can be hurt in return. Justice looks forward and asks who must be protected next. She looked toward the older residents in the crowd. Many of you waited too long to be heard. Some of you kept notebooks. Some kept receipts. Some kept letters. Some kept pain quietly because you were taught that speaking up would cost more than silence. Her voice remained steady. That ends here. The new sign was covered with a dark cloth. Maya turned toward it. This department will not earn trust with words. It will earn trust with records that do not vanish. Cameras that do not go missing. Officers who answer questions. And leaders who understand that authority without humility becomes danger. She pulled the cloth down. The new sign read, "To serve with dignity, not power." For a few seconds, nobody clapped. People simply read it. Then Walter Jennings raised his hand to his cap. One by one, others followed. Not everyone. Enough. Maya looked at the sign and thought of Samuel William. Her father had written unanswered letters with the same pen she now carried. He had believed in truth, even when truth arrived too late to save him from humiliation, suspicion, and quiet heartbreak. Maya wished he could have stood there, but she also knew something else. Every act of justice carried the hands of those who had been denied it. Her father was there in the pen. Judge Evelyn Carter was there in the courage she had planted. Walter's wife was there in the notebook. Paul Reeves was there in Ranger's watchful eyes. And the people of Fairmont were there in the silence that had finally become voice. After the gathering ended, Maya returned inside the department. The building was quieter now. Ranger followed her to the hallway outside the chief's office. He stopped at the door and sat down. Maya smiled. "You remember this door too, don't you?" The dog looked up at her. Eli approached from the corridor. "He likes it here." "Good," Maya said. "So do I." Eli glanced at the open office. "Do you think it'll last?" Maya looked through the doorway. The desk had been cleared of the former chief's belongings. The complaint review schedule sat beside the phone. Her father's fountain pen rested near the first stack of reopened case files. "It will last if people protect it." Eli nodded. "We will." Maya looked at him. "That's not a promise you make once. It's one you make every morning." "I understand." Outside, the last of the crowd began leaving. Inside, Carol handed a complaint form to a woman who had just entered with her teenage son. She did not ask the woman to come back later. She did not lower her voice. She did not glance around for permission. She simply said, "We'll help you file this." Maya watched from the hallway. That was the real ending. Not Whitmore losing his badge. Not Hales being escorted away. Not cameras, headlines, or speeches. The real ending was a woman walking into a police department and being treated like she belonged there. Maya placed her hand on the chief's office door. Once, that door had been used to keep her out. Now it stayed open. And because it stayed open, Fairmont had a chance. Not a guarantee. A chance. Sometimes that was how justice began. Not with thunder, not with applause, but with one door left open, and someone brave enough to make sure it never closed the same way again. The lesson of this story is simple but powerful. No one should have to prove their title, status, or power before being treated with dignity. True justice is not revenge. It is the courage to expose wrongdoing, protect the vulnerable, and make sure the next person does not suffer the same humiliation. A badge, an office, or a position means nothing without humility, honesty, and respect for every human being. Thank you for staying with this story until the very end. If it touched your heart, I would truly love to hear your thoughts on the storytelling, the emotional pacing, or whatever stayed with you after listening. Every comment you share helps make the next stories more honest, moving, and meaningful. And if you have a powerful or meaningful story of your own, please do not hesitate to send it to the channel. It may become the next story to touch and inspire thousands of others. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.